Number 1. I'm a member of the slam poetry scene. Basically, it's an excuse to get people to listen to performance poetry. After running through the small scene in my city, I wanted to branch out and push my career further, so I started to visit places within driving distance where I could spit. This led me to Charlotte, North Carolina. I started at their local team venue, where you compete to be a part of a squad that goes to national competitions every year. I was doing well, and was accepted into the local crew pretty readily. This led to longer stays and features at other venues around the city. I started going to one that was particularly popular, and good for selling CDs. That's where I met him. He worked as a barback, occasionally got on stage and shared, frankly, shitty poems. He was the brother of the host, and everyone knew and liked him. He slowly started flirting with me more and more. Although this was back in my loose days, something always kept me leery. We'd always hang around at parties and events, but I always had this tickle in my gut, warning me not to ever get too close to him. But over a year or two, we continued to become friends. After a while, he started calling and texting me more often, poking me on Facebook daily, sending messages about wanting me to be more than friends with him, and how he wanted a snow bunny. Yes, I'm white and he's black. Again, I never entertained it. There was something gnawing at me. The crazy in his eyes was too hard to miss. I eventually moved to Denver, where I took a position teaching poetry and working at a friend's law firm at the same time. The second Christmas I was there, I got the call. A friend from Charlotte relayed the following. He had indeed found his snow bunny, and they got married. They seemed happy at first, but slowly began fighting more and more. It spilled over into the venue, and often they had to be separated by their friends from physically attacking one another. One friend, later thinking back, remembers the last time she saw them together. Him pushing his wife, followed by her throwing a drink in his face and scratching his neck deep enough to draw blood. She told me that after the couple had been dragged away from each other, she sat with him and smoked a cigarette. She told me that she laughed and said, "You guys are gonna kill each other one day." Around Christmas last year, his wife just stopped coming to the bi-weekly events they both attended regularly. He explained it away that they were on a break. Time goes by. No one really questions that they haven't seen or heard from her in a while, thinking she was breaking from the whole scene in order to put distance between herself and her husband. Her parents, however, hadn't heard from their daughter since Thanksgiving dinner. They would call him up, and he would say everything was fine and blow them off. This continues until a week after Christmas. Knowing that their daughter would never miss a holiday without at least calling, the parents decide to call the police and send them to the couple's home for a well-body check. The cops arrive. They knock on the door and are let in. They ask him where she is. He replies that she's in the bedroom. He shows them into the room. And there she lay, dead for weeks, rotting in their bed. He even killed her little dog as well. During this whole time, he had been attending events, hosting hip-hop nights, even publishing a blog on how to make a marriage work. Never once letting on that every night he was going home and sleeping with his murdered wife. The sickest part of this whole thing is that he has a child from another relationship, a daughter who he gets to celebrate every other holiday with. That Christmas, they opened gifts, had dinner, cuddled up on the couch and watched TV, less than 100 feet away from her decaying stepmother. I don't know what would have happened if I ever took him up on his offer to date. but I do know that me and my gut will always stay on speaking terms, and I will always listen. Please note that an article about this murder can be found in the description below. Number 2. It was Christmas Eve, and I was a freshman in high school. My family has been split up for some time now, so normally we trade off a Christmas Day and a Christmas Eve each year. And this year, I had come home early from my grandparents' Christmas party, while everyone else was at my aunt and uncle's celebrating. When I was dropped off home, my cousins offered to stay with me for a few hours, but I declined. I thought I could watch some of my new DVDs, and get some alone time in the house, which is a rarity. I had noticed an unfamiliar car parked on the street, but I didn't think anything of it, considering it was Christmas Eve. Probably just a neighbour's relative or something. After I got inside, I locked the door, grabbed some snacks, and started to settle down. I hadn't been home for more than 15 minutes when there was a knock at the door. I unlocked the door and I opened it only a crack to see a man standing there. Dark hair, glasses, slightly overweight and dressed casually. He didn't look like much of a threat, but my stomach dropped. He asked me, "I was wondering about the car outside. Is it for sale?" I told him that I didn't think so. He responded with, "Is there someone here I can talk to about it?" I said, rather stupidly, "No, you can come back another time." I closed the door and I locked it as fast as I possibly could. He reached for the handle immediately and started pounding on the door. I heard a string of profanities, and the pounding stopped. Terrified, I was crawling on the floor to the phone, hoping he wouldn't be able to see me through one of the windows. Then I heard the noises. Our house had an open garage door, and it led through to the laundry room, where the door lock was broken and no one had bothered to fix it. I heard him making his way through the garage. At that moment, I heard a man yell, and I saw the guy through the window run off to his car and drive away. My uncle had arrived home just in time and scared the man off. Who knows what would have happened to me if my uncle hadn't arrived at that moment. Sadly, we didn't get the plate number, and nothing ever came of it, but I'll never be home alone on a holiday again. Number 3. A little backstory first. This happened about 4 years ago. At the time, I was around 8 months pregnant, and so it was very noticeable. It was mid-December, and I was doing a little Christmas shopping at the mall at around 9 PM. I finished up my shopping and headed out of the mall towards my truck. There's a road that goes around the mall, and the parking is on the other side of this road. Therefore, you have to cross the road to get to the parking area. As I'm leaving the store, I happen to notice a man standing in the middle of the road. He looked in my direction and made eye contact. I looked away and kept going. At this time, there are 2 men who walk straight past him and walk into the mall. He never looks at them or says anything to them. He just keeps his eyes on me. I noticed that he started to walk in my direction, but I just keep on strolling towards my vehicle. Then I hear, "Excuse me, can you help me?" Being Southern has its downfalls, and one of those is having it ingrained in you to be polite. I simply just asked him, "What do you need?" He looked around for a moment and said, "Could you help me start my car? I think my battery is dead." Now, I may be Southern, but I'm not that polite, nor am I stupid. Please remember that I am very much pregnant and alone in a dark parking lot. If he was really having car trouble, Is it likely that he would have asked a pregnant woman to help, rather than those two men who walked straight past him? Doubtful. At this point, I know it's time to go. So I just say, sorry, I can't help, and I keep on walking, a little faster this time. I still see him out of the corner of my eye, following me. I have my keys out, and I'm ready to go as soon as I get to my truck. He's still coming. You really aren't gonna help me. I just need a jump. Again, I say, no, sorry. I finally get to the truck, unlock it, and jump in. He's practically running towards me now. I lock the doors, and I try to get the key into the ignition, but I was shaking so much at that very moment that the damn key would not fit in. He gets to the truck and hits my window, saying, I just need your help for a minute. Now I'm starting to get angry, and I yell, no, get the hell away from me. He grabs the door handle and tries to open my door, and screams, just open it. Here is where I lost my cool, and made a split-second decision. I have my concealed carry license, because there have been other reasons I've needed protection that I won't go into here. However, I did have my .38 special in my console that I do know how to use. When he tried to open my door, my only thought was to protect my unborn child and myself. I rolled the window down, grabbed my .38 and pointed it right in his face and said, I'm not gonna tell you again. Get the fuck away from me. He stood there for a moment, in shock, I'm sure. In that moment, time stopped. I didn't know what he would do, but I knew that I was prepared to use my gun if he made a move towards me. He didn't say a word. He just turned and ran. I know I should have gotten the hell out of Dodge right then and there, but in that moment, I couldn't. All I could do was just sit there, in shock. I was terrified of not only what he might have done to me had I not sensed something was off, but also that I had just threatened to kill someone. Not a situation I ever want to be in again. However, should it happen, I still have that .38, and it's loaded and ready to go. When my friends and I were in junior high, we were bored and got the bright idea to go ding-dong ditching, which is when you ring a random person's doorbell and run off to hide in the bushes just to watch people's reactions. Our neighbourhood was separated from another subdivision by a field, so we walked through the field to begin our quest. It was in December, but there wasn't any snow and it wasn't too cold. It was also dark outside, but it was only around 8 or 9 o'clock. So we get to our first house. There's a car there and some lights are on, so we know someone is home. My friends and I walk up to the front door and ring the bell, dashing back to stand behind the tall shrubs and see what happened. For a minute, nothing did. Then we saw the door slowly open and saw an old woman hobble out. She called out, "Hello? Who's there?" She kept on calling, sounding scared. My friends and I were horrified. We didn't expect this, and guilt was pouring over me at how scared the lonely old lady sounded. So, after a split second of indecision, I yanked my friends from behind the shrubs and called, "Oh my gosh, sorry, we thought no one was home. We're doing Christmas carols." One of my buddies was wearing a stupid-looking Santa hat, so we kind of fit the bill. My friends looked at me like I was crazy, but they all went along with it. The old lady was super excited to have some visitors, and we sang about 5 of her favourite Christmas songs. We were completely off-key, kept messing up the lyrics, and obviously sucked, but she urged us to do more of her favourites. We even started to get into it, and added little dance moves, cracking up about how hilarious this all was. She ended up inviting us in, and gave us cookies and hot chocolate, letting us play with her little dog. We walked back to our neighborhood, feeling like idiot failures. My dumbass friend got the bright idea to ding-dong ditch his own house, since he knew his dad was at home. He rang the bell, running back behind the shrubs with us. His dad ran out with frazzled hair and wearing tidy-whities. He was also holding a shotgun. He chased after us and we ran, terrified. He went and got his truck so he could patrol the whole neighborhood, having no idea it was his own dumbass son that he was hunting, and we ended up freezing our asses off as we hid in a big clump of bushes for about an hour. Needless to say, we never ding-dong ditched anyone ever again. Hey, lazy hair guys, and thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed these festive theme frights, try saying that 3 times fast, and there'll be more of them to come, hopefully, before this festive period is out. Don't forget to check out the artwork of Anthony Salinas, who provided the thumbnail for this video, and you can do that by following the links down in the description below. Stay spooky, and remember, the best things happen in the dark.